Hi everybody and welcome to another F Word. It's a filmed podcast that is designed to inspire a more vibrant, healthier and wealthier 50-plus lifestyle. We've got lots to talk about. I'm your host, Vital Germain. I'm 56 years old. I feel good and I look even better. Don't hate, you can too. Please let's dive in and welcome my first guest, Lenny. Hi Lenny, how's it going?
I am wonderful, Vital. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you. We've got a lot to talk about today, a lot of meaningful stuff. We're going to talk about romance, love, reinvention. We're also going to talk about sexuality and a lot more things that are of meaning to our audience. Off the top of the bat, Lenny, how old are you, by the way?
56 3/4.
Oh, that makes you slightly older than me.
Just a bit.
56 3/4. Now, off camera, you quickly shared something about your last name, Talarico, which actually means?
Well, I think it's a translation of Smith, is the equivalent of Smith in Italy, but it's supposed to be tall, rich man.
Tall, rich man, and instead you are a?
I am an American, and I am who I am. How's that?
Awesome, awesome. So you're 56 3/4 or whatever that be. If you didn't know your age, how old would you be?
Gosh, that's a great question. Honestly, age has never really played a huge role for me. If I were to go back and say, gosh, what was a great age, I would say 30. Do I feel like I'm 30? There are some days I do, and maybe others that not so close to 30. But no, I think that was a great time.
30 was a good year for me.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into it. You've gone through many chapters in your life.
Quite a few.
Take us through some of them. You've worked for MGM. What were you doing there? You've been in entertainment.
Well, sure. Actually, that was actually the almost like the second or third career for me. But I'll take it back one step further for you. So originally, I came to Las Vegas for what was supposed to be a 2-week engagement. I was a performer, singer, dancer, working on the Strip. And then I tell everyone, I said, when you get to the point in life when you look left and look right, and you now could be the father of the person you sing and dance next to, perhaps transition into production. And so, fortunate for me, I was performing in a show at the Rio at the time, Show in the Sky.
Oh, I remember that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And they had an opening in the special events department. And I went down and wanted to put an application in. And at first they said, well, we're only looking for people with hotel experience. I muscled my way in somehow, and that began my career on the other side of the stage, working in special events, and then special events from there transitioned to destination management companies, and then ultimately I spent 13 years at MGM Resorts International as executive director, handling both domestic events and also events in other destinations for the company.
Now, you make that all sound like, I just kind of slowly transitioned. It all just happened naturally from one step to the other. Life, reality isn't quite that way.
Sure.
What were some of the challenges? As we get older, I find that reinvention becomes more complicated. When I was younger and 20, it was just like, I'm gung-ho, I've got this, no worries. Now, there are a lot more factors to take into consideration. Through those transitions, especially going from being an entertainer to now having to somewhat wear the business hat, think differently, what were some of the challenges you had to navigate to become the man that you did become, the new version of you that you became?
There are certainly challenges, and there were a number of roadblocks that were there. The first being is that I didn't own a computer until I was 30 years of age. There were no computers.
There's a theme here. It's the 30s.
Exactly. So I think that there was the oh my gosh, there's an entire new world related to that you have to understand and conquer. Nowadays, I mean, we have kids that are born with computers basically in their hands.
Pretty much.
And for at least for our generation, at least for me, that wasn't the case. Right. So I think that that's probably one of the major hurdles is just adapting to that world. When you're in show business, you very well know. You wake up, you do your 2-3 shows, and you spend the day by the pool.
That's right. That's all you needed to do. To your point, have you learned to embrace technology? Are you now addicted to this thing?
I guess there are times that I'm addicted to it. I think that all of us fall into that trap. Yeah. I think that we can all, unfortunately, in the world that we're living in, go down that rabbit hole, and you have to make sure that you take a pause from it at times.
I'm glad you said that, because one thing I have to really consciously try and remind myself is, okay, do disconnect. Yeah. Find moments in life to strengthen relationships. Let me talk about relationships. You were previously married. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to talk openly about sexuality. You are now currently married to your partner, and how long have you been married now?
23 years together, and next week is 12 years legally married.
Legally married. So we're talking about gay marriage, something that is a very significant talking point, has been a challenge in the last 20 or so years. How was that feeling the first time you were able to legally go and get married? And then what was that feeling like you were able to openly acknowledge, I am gay. I am now married to this wonderful human being that I love. What was that like for you?
Well, I mean, it certainly is. It's liberating to know that rights that were available to some were now available to you and to everyone, and we're still fighting that challenge.
Yes.
I mean, currently with what's going on in our climate. But for all reality, I was in Austria, of all places, the day that the ruling came down.
Oh.
And we were on vacation. My husband, of course, is German, but we happened to be there on vacation, and we're getting text messages from people saying, the Supreme Court, it just came through. And so we, as luck would have it, we were standing right in the cathedral in Salzburg when I was getting text messages.
Wow.
Talk about
Wow.
that being just like wow, this is a surreal experience.
And then when you get that news, do you then decide, honey, I want to marry you?
Well, for all intents and purposes, we were married. We had already been together for more than a dozen years, I think, at that point. And when we came back, and this was, I think, during the 2008 election cycle, when we saw what was happening in California, there was proposition that was on the ballot there, and we saw that, we literally were watching the television news and looked at one another and said, we need to do this. So we actually, with a day's notice, jumped in a car, called some friends and said, listen, we're heading to California. If I can get a license, we're going to get married. Will you stand for us? And absolutely they did. And we were married by noon and having margaritas by 1 o'clock.
Oh,
so it wasn't
good for you.
it wasn't like it's that life-changing for us, except from the legality standpoint. Then, of course, when the Supreme Court decision came down, our marriage in California, of course, is now equal across all state lines.
Good. Well,
so from that perspective, I mean, it didn't really change or impact our life that much on a day-to-day basis, nor did it really impact anyone else's life. Okay, me getting married didn't change your world, did it?
no, but what I think has changed is a more global perspective on different religious rights, gay rights. That for me is the good news.
Sure.
But I want to go back in time a little bit, because obviously at one point you were an executive at MGM Grand.
Sure.
As in the entertainment world, we're free, we're open. Yes, I own who I am, but in the corporate world, did you face challenges where maybe you had to be a bit more delicate about your sexuality? Did you have to keep it a secret? I mean, what was that like for you?
Well, not necessarily at MGM in any way was that an issue. They are one of the most diverse organizations and a proponent of diversity and inclusion and education in the workplace here, and arguably almost any place that I've observed. So I really applaud them on that. The other thing, too, is that with my specific role being in the events and entertainment division, people just accept you for who you are.
Yes.
Are there people within any organization, that one or any organization, that may be like, oh, ooh, yes, you're always going to find that. But I never had any of those types of experiences, and thankfully so. And I have to say, as I said, I applaud their culture and the leadership that was and still continues to be in place there for what they do.
We have an election coming up. I don't want to get into the political arena, but this is something that is probably weighing on the mind of a lot of people. If a certain person gets reelected, and rumor has it with the new Supreme Court judge that will be put into place, you could potentially lose your rights.
Yeah.
Talk us through that. What would that feel like? Is that a massive step back? Does that anger you? Do you have hope for the, I mean,
Well, I mean, it's upsetting just to even think about that occurring. Yes, it's a reality. I think that we see that there's the tendencies to move that direction. I'm of the belief that when we get closer to it, that there will be enough people who would stand up and say, this has to end. This is not right. And again, without getting too political or also too religious, okay, this country is founded as a separation of church and state.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what religion you are. I respect somebody's opportunity to practice that religion, okay? Just like I would expect from them that who I'm married to doesn't impact their daily life. So leave it alone.
You're obviously a very open-minded person, and part is due to the career that you chose, the career that I chose. Have you found that when you were younger, you were more narrow-minded, or have you become more rigid in your thinking with age, or have you found yourself blossoming into embracing more through wisdom?
Gosh, that is kind of a difficult question. I feel as though I have always been true to myself,
Yeah.
no matter which point I was in this journey. I, I, do your positions evolve? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think our positions evolve, but I have held pretty true to who I have been in my 20s, my 30s, and all the way up into where I am today. Um, I've supported candidates on both sides of the aisle, conservatives and liberals, Republicans and Democrats, and still to this day hold very close relationships
Yeah.
with people who are in a different party affiliation than I identify with. And we can have civil disagreements,
I agree.
okay? But that's where I think we probably have strayed away from and need to get back to.
I agree. Yeah.
That's really what
let's
it
get
is.
back to
Yeah.
more civility. You talked about authenticity. You didn't actually say the word, but you were talking about you've been true to who you are, to yourself. For me, that authenticity ties into sense of purpose. If you honor who you are, what your career path is, have you found, or when did you find, a sense of meaning, a sense, this is what I have to become, I feel compelled, and have you found that again in this chapter of your life?
It's evolving. I think it's
Okay.
evolving through all of our lives. And I know that you're aware of this, but it was an interesting week to ask that question. This week marked, I lost my mom 46 years ago when I was a child. And it's interesting because when I ponder and think about that, it's a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Okay, she actually has been gone longer than she was on the earth, and so it really, you look at it and say, "Gosh, what is someone's purpose in life?" In retrospect, you can look back and say, "Okay, clearly her purpose was to live her life, marry the love of her life, and give birth to 3 children."
Yeah.
And then abruptly after the last child, she was pretty soon gone. So you can say maybe that was her sole purpose for being here. For each of us, I think that we live our lives on a daily basis. You pursue the things that you feel are important to you, okay,
Yeah.
the issues, the goals, the aspirations, what you have in life, and that begins to weave into what your overall purpose is.
Yeah.
Is my purpose today the same as it was, and it was in my 20s? No, I was solely focused on, I was, singing and dancing and Mr. Showbiz and doing my thing, and that was great. And boy, was I fortunate. Did I have incredible opportunities and experiences, as very well as you did as well,
Yes.
that there are many people that dream about those things
That's
and
right.
don't have those opportunities, and we did. So now my purpose really becomes is sharing that experience with others, okay, and helping them to fulfill
Yes.
and reach whatever their destination and their purpose is going to be.
Did you have mentors that were defining for you in your life?
So many of them. I mean, so many of them. And I mean, this is the question everybody's going to go back to. Many, at least for me, I'm going to go back and say I had the most incredible father figure. Okay, and I'm fortunate. And I know that there are others who did not share that experience, but I did. He was an incredible man. And even losing a spouse that early in life, for him to now all of a sudden assume that role and mentor us, 3 children, and our upbringing through that. Then through my college years and my performing years, many people who were part of my life. And then as I transitioned into more of the corporate world, a lot of mentors that I looked up to. One who I recently introduced to you, who was my former vice president over at MGM. I mean, she's my BFF. Okay,
And
I
a
speak
wonderful
to her.
lady, by the way.
Unbelievable,
Wonderful. Yeah.
unbelievable person. And she too has had such a diverse and interesting career path as well. She didn't start out doing what she ended up doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've all had them at different points along the journey, and I think they come into our lives when they're meant to.
Ooh, they come into our lives when they're meant to. I wish it was that easy for a lot of people because I embrace that philosophy. But over the years, I've witnessed a lot of people who they reach 50, one career ends, they are stuck, they are paralyzed, they are unable to find a new sense of purpose. You talked a lot about how you found it, but was there an easy way other than just simply it happened organically? Could you give somebody some advice? Well, here's a suggestion maybe that might help you find your new purpose at 55, at 60.
Sure. I think it's important that each of us follows our passion. Okay? I think that passion is truly, it's what drives you. If you're not happy doing it, then you probably shouldn't be doing it, and you should probably be finding something on a daily basis that does bring you fulfillment and happiness. Now again, work is work. If it wasn't, it would be called vacation, okay?
Or holiday.
Or holiday,
you
or
know,
holiday. Absolutely. But again, so I think that helping people to transition has been a goal of mine for a number of years. You're aware that I've served for the past 12 years as faculty at TISO, the International School of Hospitality here in Las Vegas. And so that's in addition to my real job, okay? This is really my passion, okay, is to help people who have said, I don't know what I want to do in life, but hospitality seems to be interesting to me. So the courses there range from everything from people who want to understand about the art of concierge and how do I get into being a concierge, to being in catering and food and beverage, entertainment and events, or any of the jobs that would be in the hospitality field. And we find that students that come through that program are people who either have been through another career and then all of a sudden woke up one day and said, that's gone, what am I going to do? And I need baseline skills. Back to your initial question. I didn't have a computer until I was 30. Okay, that for me was a quick study. I needed some baseline skills. So much akin this organization is helping people to say, let's give them baseline skills and the tools that they need to go out and pursue something that's passionate to them.
I love that. Passion. Yeah, I've pursued my passion. Sometimes it's come at a price, great sacrifice.
Sure.
Usually, though, if you follow your passion, you end up at the right place. You might go through some, hell and high water, whatever that expression is, but ultimately, if you do follow your passion, you bring more value, and I'm all about bringing value to the world.
Yes.
You mentioned your mom, and by the way, a very touching tribute that you posted on Facebook. It was, you kind of got me a little bit verklempt. Loss. We all experience loss.
Yeah.
When we're young, in our 20s, all our friends are getting married.
Sure.
They're getting a new car. It's all building and growing. In our 30s, our friends maybe get divorced. They separate. In my 50s, I'm realizing that a lot of people around me are getting ill. They're dying.
Yeah. How
do you handle loss?
So it's interesting, having experienced it very young, the loss of a parent, and then you accept it, okay? At least in our circumstances, I know there are others that have had tremendous struggles. We had a great support network, to help us through that. You understand what loss is. You understand that you can't change it, the finality of it, okay? So that you have to say, this is what it is. Not to use that phrase in particular, but this is what happened. I can't change what happened, the outcome of that, but I can learn from it. I also, and again, I've shared this with you, in our earlier conversation, is that prior to my marriage, and Holger and I being together for 23 years, I had been in a previous relationship early in my 20s that lasted 8 years. And unfortunately, that person developed an illness, it was cancer, and then from that cancer it was discovered that they were HIV positive, and from that they succumbed to that. And we're talking about in the mid-90s at this point. It was a different acceptance, it was a different world, and no one expects, I think I was about right around 30 years of age when that happened, and no one expects that, gosh, here it is once again, the person I thought I was going to spend my life with, and they're gone, and gone so young. They were only 33 years of age when they passed. So I think that things like that happen. You have to have an acceptance, and you have to, have the right support network around you to get through those types of, you can't succumb to the grief. You have to get past it.
Does loss become easier with wisdom in aging, or is it just going back to what you said, it's just the ability to accept? And
I think I don't think it ever gets easy. I think that, as you mature, you probably,
have more
realize, exactly, that the clock is ticking for everyone, some sooner than others, unfortunately, and that you have to accept those things that you cannot change. Okay, I've had people who I've known who have fortunately passed well into their 90s, and unfortunately those who have passed much younger. And it's tragic no matter when it happens. Maybe as they're more mature, you can say, wow, they really did have a full life and they accomplished the things they want. It can be really challenging when it's somebody who is so young.
Yeah, I understand that. By the way, I lost my mother also very, very young. My mother was, I was 16 when she passed away.
Okay, so.
And to your point, you learn to embrace it and accept it because you can't change it, but there is always a void. There is always, it's always there, right? It's always there.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, here you are, 56, an incredible career, an incredible life. Looking back, are there things that you have regretted, like, oh, I should have done this, coulda, shoulda, woulda? Any major things that you wish you could go back and change?
You know, great. I love, music drives me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when I listen to lyrics, and we not to be coy about it, but regrets, we've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. Okay. I don't look back and regret, gosh, I would have done this or I should have done that. I took so many chances and I explored every opportunity that was available. And sometimes, you get to a Y in the road.
Yes.
And you can go left or you can go right. As long as you make a decision, make a decision. You can't stand still.
Yeah.
Now, no one says that if you go left, all of a sudden, and it winds up being a dead end, that you can't turn around, backtrack to the Y, and go the other direction.
I love that.
So what it is you have to constantly be in motion, okay? Have no regrets. Take the opportunities, and if it doesn't work out, nothing says, whoop, loop-de-loo, and I'm going the other direction at this point.
Something else I love that you mentioned about staying in motion. I think that's a part of the worst factors of aging. What allows people to age is we lose momentum, we stop moving, and we age. Because I personally think that age is mind over matter. If you don't mind, it doesn't matter. But there's a mindset that drives us. It can be eating healthy, but ultimately it's what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your heart, and do you still have do you wake up in the morning with an element of, going back to your word, do you still have passion? And if you don't, find a new passion, because that will give you fuel and energy to move forward. We're going to shift gear very quickly.
Sure.
Here we are talking about, we've reached the second chapter of our life. Let's go back to the very beginning. Do you remember what you wanted to be when you were 7 years old?
Oh gosh, I wanted to be my dad. I really did. I wanted to be a lawyer. Okay, wow. And my dad was an incredible attorney and worked worked in government, and so to see the things that he was involved in and the excitement and fighting for other people and fighting for their rights, that's what I wanted to do. Then I somehow got bit by the show business bug, but that has always been part of me, is that somebody who wants to fight for the underdog. Yeah. So
we have a lot in common, because ultimately that's my cause. I've always wanted to protect or speak for those who are voiceless. Yeah. I love to stand up for justice or injustice in all capacities, and that's been my drive throughout life, so I'm glad that we relate on that. Yeah. What is your favorite sound? Like for me, I love the sound of children playing and laughing and giggling. What is your favorite sound?
Gosh, water is so calming to me. It doesn't necessarily have to be the ocean. It could be a trickling stream. I mean, I find solace when we go into the mountains and you just take a, it doesn't have to be a strenuous hike, just a walk, and if you can hear a brook or water babbling. I have fountains all over my house for that reason. Even in the backyard, everywhere we go, there's something so that it gives you that sound of, I think water is life.
I recently went up to Mary Jane Falls at Mount Charleston. It's not an easy hike, and I went during the summer, so it was intense. But the reward of going up there and then hearing this water, I actually got into the waterfall, it was freezing. But yes, the sound of water is very calming and very soothing.
It's interesting. I sat and had a beer with a girl named Mary Jane up at the Mount Charleston Lodge while people were hiking up to the falls, but that's a whole different.
I'm hanging out with the real Mary Jane. Here she is right here. All right, final kind of question before I get to the real ultimate deep question. What's your favorite curse word?
Oh, shit. I don't know.
You just said it. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Mine happens to be the F-bomb. There's this great thing. Peter Sullivan, I think it is, has 10 examples in history when the F word was appropriate. One of them was like, what the hell was that, Mayor of Hiroshima? They'll never effing find me, Saddam Hussein. I mean, just this, but it's the most versatile word. Oh, shit. I love that word, too. Here is the kind of final way out of this being on the hot seat. You've traveled your journey. You've gone through ups and downs, loss, reinvention, love, pain, achievement, success. When all is said and done, in terms of your legacy, what would you like people to think of Lenny? You know, Lenny, this is what he did. Lenny, this is what he meant to me. What would that look like for you? What would you like to hear?
That he helped others.
Wow.
Yeah, that he helped others. And paying it forward, okay? I had great good fortune in my life. through all of the versions of my life. And if I can do anything to open doors, to help someone else achieve their dreams, and I think that that to me is what is truly a lasting legacy, because they'll pay it forward for others.
I love that. And I will be a witness to that. You introduced me to the young lady there who was your former boss, and everything about that intention was, I just want to help you guys connect. And if I can help elevate you, well, if you could help elevate us, and I thought that was a very powerful thing. And I met you 20 years ago, maybe indirectly at an event, and everything that I've noticed from the peripherals has been that. So Lenny, I will say this, that yes, you have helped, you have inspired, you have forwarded people, including myself. I'm deeply grateful for you taking the time to be here. What is the current company you're working for?
I work here in Las Vegas for Blueprint Studios. So we're an event design firm based in San Francisco with offices in California, Los Angeles, and then here in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
We're our global headquarters.
So you're actually now combining your creative side with the more business side and bringing it all together.
Yeah.
Where can people find more information about this company?
Online, blueprintstudios.com. You can find there. We're working in the live event arena, but also in the virtual event arena. In fact, we've been doing some amazing projects that are out there for a lot of Silicon Valley tech companies,
very cool.
in helping them to deliver content in a time where they can't bring these large conferences together.
Wow, I love that.
Interesting work.
Lenny,
Thank you
it's
so
an
much.
absolute pleasure. Guys, you heard it here. Go onto the website. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of Another F Word. Come back and tune in again. If you want to follow me, you can do so on multiple social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. It's been a pleasure. We will see you again. Lenny, thank you so much. That was
Thank you, sir.
absolutely awesome.
Thank you for being here.